Hi, it's Katrina. Stolen artifacts found. In May of this year, Italian police announced that fragments from 6 frescoes that they believe were stolen from Roman villas in and around Pompeii during the 1970s have been returned to Italy. 3 of the pieces, which date back to the 1st century and depict a cherub playing a flute, a dancing woman carrying a tray, and a woman's head, were taken from the ancient coastal city of Stabie, which is located roughly 2.8 miles southwest of Pompeii, and it was also buried in ash when Mount Vesuvius erupted in 79 AD. The artwork was smuggled across international lines into collectors in the United States, Britain, and Switzerland during the 1990s. A cultural protection squad working under Italy's Carabinieri police seized the frescoes last year as part of a larger investigation into stolen and trafficked archaeological goods. The other 3 frescoes were seized in 2012 after police caught the thieves illegally excavating them red-handed from a villa in Civita Giuliana, which sits just a half-mile northwest of Pompeii. Inside the same villa, where excavations began in 2017, long after thieves had tunneled their way in, archaeologists discovered the remains of 2 victims of the eruption, who they believe were a master and his slave. To law enforcement and experts alike, the return of the ancient works to their rightful place is cause for celebration, especially amid heightened efforts to combat artifact smugglers. Mysterious Amphibulus II. The Ministry of Culture in Greece confirmed that the entrance to a secret underground room was found underneath the vast burial site of the Amphibulus tomb. This tomb comes from the era of Alexander the Great, and for the longest time, archaeologists feared they would never discover the secret of who was buried inside. But after discovering the hidden underground vault, some very interesting revelations have been brought to light. First of all, whoever's remains were hidden inside the ancient tomb have been guarded by a pair of Sphinx sculptures for about 2,000 years. The tomb and its many chambers date back to between 325 and 300 BC. So far, all clues point to the tomb belonging either to the wife or mother of Alexander the Great. Experts say everything about it hints that it was intended for a very important woman. Some experts believe, however, that it was intended for his friend Hephaestion, not his wife or mother. Before this find, experts had found 3 chambers and thought the 3rd was the last, but since it was empty, it had probably already been looted over the many years it's been abandoned. Unfortunately, this ancient, very mysterious tomb has yet to be completely excavated. Archaeologists are hoping to open it to visitors in 2022, but there has never been confirmation of who was buried there. The research team is on the lookout for a throne or a marble case where a golden urn may have been placed that might give us some answers. Ancient artificial eye. Archaeologists in Iran have found the skull of a woman who died 5,000 years ago. Not only is this impressive in and of itself, but this woman was a cyclops. She was found buried in her tomb with a prosthetic eye inside of her skull, crafted from tar and animal fat. Even after 5,000 years, the prosthetic eye was still snug in her eye socket. She was probably between 25 and 30 when she died. It's not clear how she lost her eye in the first place, nor why she appears to be the only woman in all of ancient history found with this type of prosthetic eye. She's believed to have been extremely wealthy, perhaps even a member of the royal family. Archaeologists have also discovered ornamental beads, a bronze mirror, and other luxury artifacts inside of her grave. Instead of wearing an eye patch, perhaps she wore this fake eyeball for aesthetic purposes. So far, this is the oldest evidence of a real-life Cyclops, and a princess Cyclops to boot. The Grasshopper Diet. About 1,400 years ago, a man living in the lower Pecos Canyon lands of Texas suffered such a horrible spell of constipation that he died. At least, this is according to a recent study of the man's mummified remains. The new study revealed that for several months before this man's death, he ate basically nothing except grasshoppers. He had such a weird diet because he'd already caught something known as Chagas disease. This is a disease caused by a parasite, and it was so deadly that it backed up the man's gastrointestinal system and caused his colon to swell to at least 6 times its normal size, a scientific condition known as megacolon, and it's something no one should ever have to experience. This man became so sick that he was unable to digest foods and became malnourished. He couldn't even walk. Probably for the last 3 months of his life, he was cared for by his family, who fed him nothing but grasshoppers, which would have been easier for his messed up body to digest. The remains of this poor man were discovered in 1937 inside of a rock shelter in southern Texas. His body had been naturally mummified because of the dry conditions. His preserved corpse was put inside a museum until it was loaned to the Institute of Texan Cultures in 1968. It wasn't until just recently that scientists learned of his unusual diet and medical affliction. Ancient footprints. In 2016, in the beautiful and vast Grand Canyon National Park, a Norwegian geology professor was hiking with his students when he stumbled upon a rather shocking discovery. Sitting right next to the trail, in plain view of everyone walking by, was a random boulder with a fossilized reptile footprint in it. As a geology professor, this guy was able to immediately identify that he had stumbled upon something great, and thinking quickly, he sent a photo to his colleague, a paleontologist from the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. His colleague said that he may have discovered the oldest vertebrate tracks in the Grand Canyon. Not only that, but the footprints in the boulder might be the oldest footprints on Earth of an egg-laying reptile. The reason the boulder was there at all was that it apparently fell from a nearby cliff and crashed to the canyon floor. Using new scientific techniques, researchers were able to date the rock at being somewhere around 313 million years old. However, it's not clear as of right now what kind of animal made the prehistoric tracks. The tracks appear to be from some kind of tetrapod, likely one of the earliest reptiles to ever walk across this part of the Earth, predating the dinosaurs by millions and millions of years. History's first businesswoman. New archaeological evidence has just revealed the very first well-documented businesswoman in history, dating back around 1870 BC, in the city of Assur, located in modern-day Iraq. The BBC reports that in this city there was a woman named Ahaha. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation or not, but that's how it's spelled. I promise I didn't make it up. Ahaha had established a trade route to another city in modern-day Turkey with the help of a few investors, creating a donkey caravan that delivered tin and textiles. However, it seems that her own brothers embezzled money from her and she went broke. Ahaha wrote a letter on a clay tablet to a different brother pleading for his help, claiming that she had been robbed of her money and that she needed help to save herself from financial disaster. "I have nothing else apart from these funds," she wrote in cuneiform script. "Take care to act so that I will not be ruined." She instructed her brother to recover her silver and update her quickly. "Now is the time to do me a favor and to save me from financial stress." The letter written by Ahaha to her brother was one of 23,000 clay tablets recently excavated from the ruins of different merchant homes in Kanesh, Turkey. These clay tablets all belonged to Assyrian expats who had settled in the city after fleeing their homes in Assur to earn a better life. Many of these expats were females, attracted to Kanesh because of new opportunities being created by social change. Kanesh was home to some of the very first female bankers, investors, and businesswomen. According to the report from the BBC, almost all the letters found by archaeologists date from between 1900 and 1850 BC, when the Assyrian trading network was booming. Some of these women had caravans of up to 300 donkeys roaming across the mountains, delivering luxury goods, clay letters, and other raw materials. Basically, women ruled the trade network from Central Asia all the way to Afghanistan and Pakistan, and even beyond. The Sinister Roman Helmet. A kind of creepy Roman cavalry helmet was discovered in Lancashire in the northwest of England. But it wasn't found by professional archaeologists. Instead, it was found by a 13-year-old boy who stumbled upon it completely by accident in 1796. The son of a clogmaker, he was playing in a riverbed when he stumbled upon an entire Roman horde, buried in a hollow and full of a bunch of corroded metal. The helmet mimics a sinister face, complete with creepy eyes, nose, and lips. At one point, there was even a sphinx attached to the top of the helmet, but over the years, it has since been lost. Only 2 other helmets like this have been discovered in Britain, making this an extremely rare discovery. The hoard of metal items most likely belonged to a Roman soldier from about 120 AD. Along with the ominous Roman helmet, there were also the remains of a vase, a statue of the Roman goddess Minerva, and other strange artifacts that may have served a religious function. The helmet itself dates back to the late 1st century AD. It was a type of helmet worn by Roman cavalrymen. But this particular piece of headgear had impressive ornamentation that suggested it was too important to be used in battle, but probably used for either ceremonial or sporting purposes. The reason this type of helmet is so unique and slightly eerie even today is that it fit over the person's entire head, replacing their face with a ghoulish, lifeless face of bronze. It definitely was not easy to see through the thin eye holes, and breathing would have also been tough. Researchers are still wondering who exactly wore this particular helmet. Some believe that maybe it was used in battle, but maybe by just a few members of the cavalry to spook the enemy, although it would have been difficult to fight. Ancient cesspit. While conducting preliminary excavations in anticipation of building a new sewer beneath the Courtauld Gallery in London last year, construction workers discovered a giant medieval cesspit at the site. The 15-foot deep pit was filled with a trove of around 100 medieval artifacts dating back to the 14th and 15th centuries, including ceramic vessels, a ring, pendant, belt buckle, forks, and other utensils. The most bizarre artifact found in the pit is a rare medieval tile bearing a depiction of a strange mythical creature, with a human head at one end and a leaf-like tail at the other. During different times throughout history, the pit had different uses. It was remodeled into a cellar during the 17th century, and a latrine was added at some point thereafter. Archaeologists from the Museum of London Archaeology are conducting the excavation, which has revealed a lot of new information about the site's past, especially since there are few known existing records from the late medieval era, which include an inaccurate drawing from 1543. These new discoveries are helping experts better understand medieval London settlements and the buildings that were constructed afterward. Simon Thurley, the former chief executive of the English Heritage Charity, said of the discovery, "It's unusual to get excited about a cesspit. It's an incredibly significant find." Ancient Australian DNA in an unlikely place. In 2015, researchers discovered that several indigenous South American tribes carry traces of ancient Australian DNA. Expanding on these findings, a team from the University of Sao Paulo recently found that this genetic presence is more widespread than they originally thought. A senior researcher said the results showed that the Australasian genetic signal, previously described as exclusive to Amazonian groups, was also identified in people from the Pacific coast. The previous study established a connection between the people of Australasia, which includes indigenous Australians and Melanesians, people from the islands of Oceania, and the Caritiana and the Surui tribes in Brazil. After sampling a larger data set from 383 indigenous participants, Hunemeyer and her team found the shared genetic marker dubbed the Y signal in several more tribes, including the Chotuna people of Peru and the Guarani, Kiowa, and the Chavante people of Brazil. Describing the link between Australasian and Native American DNA as one of the most intriguing and poorly understood events in human history, the new study confirms researchers' suspicions that there were more genetic connections like this to be found. Hunemeyer and co-lead researcher Castro e Silva emphasized how DNA is an ally to unravel unrecorded histories and populations that European colonization obscured. Experts theorize that the people who crossed the Bering Land Bridge into the Americas around 20,000 years ago, in other words, the first Americans, started their journey from Southeast Asia carrying Australian DNA with them. The first settlers lived mostly along the coast, from Alaska to southern Chile, before a second wave of people moved inland and into the Amazon. While this theory fails to explain why North American indigenous groups lack the Y signal, it's an important piece of the puzzle in unraveling ancient human migration patterns and indigenous history. And now for a lucky find at a yard sale. But first, want to give a big shout out to Jerain Naidu and Laura Eisenbarth. You guys rock! If you are new here, be sure to subscribe for more videos like these. Megalithic Cemetery. Archaeologists have found a very unique megalithic cemetery in Poland. This cemetery has been dated to about 5,500 years old. It contains dozens of shocking tombs and was first noticed by researchers looking at satellite images of a field. After realizing the field looked like it contained historical treasures, they went out to excavate. They revealed one of the largest megalithic cemeteries in Poland. The cemetery had reinforced walls made of wood with special entrances leading into tombs. They even found the remains of an old defensive structure around some of the tombs that may have been used as a temporary military camp during the 9th century BC. Unfortunately, as is the case with many prehistoric sites throughout Europe, almost all of the grave goods are gone. It was common for the grave goods and even the deceased to be removed during that time period, as part of a ritual behavior that we don't quite understand. In more recent years, it's likely that looters have taken the rest. But this discovery is just one site among many others that have been popping up in Poland, revealing its rich history and ancient past. Thanks for watching! Which of these discoveries shocked you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button and come back soon for another video. See you later!